I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. And I'm super excited because today we're in a space on Missouri that New Jersey doesn't have the original of anymore. This is the ship's Brig, home of the only freshwater toilet on the Iowa-class battleships. Why is that the case? So on New Jersey, they delete the Brig in the 1980s and turn it into one of several weight rooms. We've done a couple of videos on that space and its restoration before. We'll link at least one of them down in the description below to check out the differences. But Missouri still has hers set up like it would have been originally. On New Jersey, the logic was you're just going to fly somebody back to shore. You're not going to keep a malcontent on board if they do something seriously wrong. And if they don't do something seriously wrong, you don't want to remove them from work to put them in the Brig. You just give them more work. So, freshwater toilet. Why the heck do Iowa battleships have a freshwater toilet? The fire and flushing main uses salt water drawn out of sea chests in the bottom of the ship. Obviously, you're not doing anything with that water. There's no point in using fresh water from the evaporators for these commodes. However, in the head, they were worried about, however, in the Brig, they were worried that sailors would come over and drink the salt water to make themselves sick. That earns them a trip to sick bay and gets them out of the Brig. So, this is the only one that's plumbed into fresh water. Now, this space is far more complete than New Jersey's reconstruction. First off, you can see some lockers here for personal effects. You can even see some of the EEBD tissue boxes that are installed later on in the 80s so that if there's some sort of fire in this space, these emergency escape breathing devices can be passed out to inmates, isn't the right word, but to sailors that are incarcerated here in the Brig temporarily so that they can make their escape with the rest of the crew. These give you just about 15 minutes of air. It's a hood that you wear over you that helps you out, and they start being retrofitted to American ships. Sailors suffocate on all of the plastics and other things at that time. On New Jersey, they're just bolted into the walls and things, but on the later Iowa-class battleships, as they're reactivated, they're built in more purposefully. Interestingly, we've also got a magazine rack on the wall here, which I've got some spares of on New Jersey. I'm probably going to get one to put in our relatively empty Brig. Another major difference is all the cell doors have an opening here for sliding a food tray in, and they all feature beds. This one has multiple beds. The other ones each have a single bed. So I imagine this one is more of the drunk tank where you're just putting a bunch of people, and the other ones are more of you've done something bad and you're locked up alone in here. There's a watch stander position in here, and notice that the door is grated so somebody can't stick their arms through the bars and grab the person standing watch. Another interesting feature is there is a mail slot here, so people locked up in the Brig can still write letters home and send mail. That's another interesting thing, and if I can find a spare mailbox on New Jersey, we'll set one up in the Brig. Continuing out, you can see that access to the Brig has a second door, so there are 2 locked doors to each cell. Notice it's bars out here so people can reach out if they want to be naughty. And then we've got another watch stander position over here. The Brig is manned by the ship's Marines. And the Marines and the sailors are always in a rivalry, and part of that is intentionally maintained by the Navy so that they don't get too buddy-buddy if there's some sort of mutiny or something else going on. Unlikely on a modern ship, but that was the theory back in the day. If there was a mutiny or something going on, then the Marines and sailors probably wouldn't work together, and whichever side was rebelling would be put down by the other side. So Marines in here, they probably don't like the sailors. The sailors do something wrong, they get locked up, and the Marines probably aren't going to help release them or pass them anything they're not supposed to have or anything like that. I'm joined now by Megan Rathbun, the Executive Director for Battleship Cove and the former curator for USS Missouri. Tell us about the Brig.
So we know the Brig got used during all of the period of the ship's life. A lot of times it was used as a drunk tank. We know a couple times Missouri tended to get into brawls, her sailors, with Jersey sailors specifically.
And Jersey sailors won every time?
Sure. If that you need to sleep at night, you can think that. But that's, a lot of the times that's what it was. People who needed to sober up, people who spent a little bit too much fun on shore leave. But we do have a couple incidents that were more serious, and one was told to me by a former crew member who had to put a sailor into the space for protective custody because it was after the accident aboard the Iowa, after they had lifted the moratorium on the 16-inch guns firing on the other battleships. And a sailor was goofing around and he didn't think about what he was doing, and he lit a lighter down in the powder magazine for the 16-inch guns. And there's a lot of ether down there. Obviously, the powder itself isn't going to ignite that way, but it's the gases that you really have to worry about that build up. And it was actually so much of a concern that when they reactivated this ship, they did a whole study of if they needed to add or modify the ventilation to deal with the buildup of ether down there. So he did this. Obviously, nothing happened when he lit the lighter. He put it out almost instantly. But the head of the division put him in protective custody in here because he was so concerned about the other sailors within the turret and their reaction and what might happen, because essentially their lives were all put at risk in that moment.
So it's less about punishment and more about the crew member's safety.
At that particular incident, yeah, it was mostly a safety one there, and then enough time had passed and he was put back out into regular duties. So
interesting. Can you tell me about the difference between Missouri and Wisconsin's brigs? Because Megan is on her third battleship currently. She's also worked on Wisconsin in addition to Massachusetts and Missouri.
Yes, so if you are aboard the Wisconsin and the Brig, there's actually an escape scuttle and a ladder kind of in the back corner, or it's actually the forward corner of this space that is missing here. And the sailors on the Wisconsin gave that ladder and escape trunk the nickname the stairway or the ladder to heaven, because the escape goes right up through the library on the ship, which is in the same place on the Missouri, and the library was always maintained by the chaplains or the chaplaincy department, so that's why it got that nickname. And that is missing here, so you can think there's an escape scuttle a little bit more aft, but if you're in this area with all of the doors and you're standing watch, there's no immediate exit out of this space.
Yeah, that's interesting. On New Jersey and Iowa, the space above us is the ship's store. So as far as I know, there's no access through that locked door to get into the store where you could steal a bunch of products. So Wisconsin may well be the only one with escape trunk, making this a glory hole on all the other ships. They only have one way in or out. Because the guys trapped in here are the ones who get all the glory when the ship sinks. Because they die with the ship.
Yep. Anyway, there's a couple spaces on here that are like that with no exits. It's a little terrifying.
Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. Do you think it made sense for the Iowa-class battleships to delete the Brig in New Jersey, or to retain a Brig, especially since it was used as a safety feature for crew members in the 1980s on Missouri? Let us know in the comments section down below your thoughts. Instead of supporting New Jersey, consider supporting USS Missouri. Their information is linked in the description below. Ways you can donate and ways you can follow their social media to see the work going on. For example, the Brig is not currently open on Missouri, so if you follow them, maybe you'll hear when it is open, because it is a well-restored space. To support USS New Jersey, you can like, share, and subscribe so more people find out about us and our channel. Thanks for watching.
My name is Keith Nick. I'm the Battleship Operations Manager on board Battleship Wisconsin. And I was asked to give my input as to whether or not I believe it's pronounced Missouri or Missouri. And I look at Missouri. That's me, Missouri. Thanks very much.